Fall armyworms are a fairly common pest. Now they can occur on a wide variety of crops. Here in our area, we typically have the most trouble with them either on Bermuda grass, perhaps on crabgrass, or in small grain plantings.
We planted approximately 160 acres. We spotted them in less than about 48 hours. We probably lost 3/4 crop on that. So that's about as devastating as I've seen it.
They don't overwinter in most parts of the United States. They start in typically South Texas or Mexico and move their way northwards with generation after generation.
In our area, I would start scouting for armyworms, usually sometime around the end of August.
They come in as an adult moth. The moth will lay eggs on the target plants. Those eggs then hatch out, and there will be 6 larval stages, or what we call instars. The larval stage is what does all the damage to our plants. They consume the foliage. The way to identify a fall armyworm, first and foremost, would be if you can look on his head capsule, you'll see a fairly prominent inverted Y. And if you look on the last segment of his body, there's going to be 4 distinct dots. And that's the best way to identify a fall armyworm versus many of the other caterpillar species. This is the first visual injury symptom that you can tell you've got a armyworm infestation. The very first stages, they're too small to chew all the way through the leaf, so they just chew the surface off. This leaf here, you can see where the outer surface of the leaf has been chewed off and just left the white interior of the leaf. That's what we call window painting. This is the first injury symptom to scout for. The last 2 larval stages, the 5th and 6th instars, they may grow to all the way to a length up to 1.5 inches long. As they move into the older instars, they're able to chew all the way through the leaf, may even chew all the way down to the leaf midrib, and that's when they cause the most severe damage. Once they've completed that 6th instar or stage, they'll burrow into the soil, pupate for 10 days, 2 weeks, somewhere in that time range, emerge from the soil as a new moth, and breed, lay eggs, and the entire life cycle starts over again. Control measures, there are a number of different insecticides, many of them in the pyrethroid class. Do a very good job on armyworms. We need to be able to spray it whenever they're less than 3/4 of an inch long. Those will give good control and contact activity at the time. Residual on the plant is very short, a matter of a day to 3 at the most probably. We also can use some of the carbamate materials, something like carbaryl 7, chlorpyrifos or lorsban, an organophosphate that has good control, malathion. One of the older chemicals is a product called dimilin. Dimilin provides good control of very small worms. It's an insect growth regulator, very good environmental footprint. We have to spray it before those worms exceed a 1/2 inch in length. Anything bigger than that, and they will not get good control. Another new material is one called Prevathon. It provides good residual activity as well. They'll actually stop feeding virtually immediately, and then it'll take a few more days to die. The threshold really depends on both the cost of the chemical to control them and the value of that crop, what value it may have to you. Typically in Bermuda grass or in forage grasses, we would say that 2 to 3 adult armyworms, 1/2 inch size or so, per square foot would be a common threshold. In small grains, when they're first coming up, 1 to 2 per linear foot of row would be a typical threshold. As the small grains get bigger and bigger, then they can stand more defoliation without permanent injury. Regardless of what insecticide is chosen, make sure to read and follow the label directions. Each one of these insecticides has a different requirement as far as pre-harvest interval, grazing restrictions, notifications, things like that are required in order to use those materials according to label regulations.